I'm Father Tom Welk. I think most of you know that already. Chaplain for the Sisters Next Door, so I have a certain kinship with them, but work almost exclusively in Harry Hines Hospice, providing end-of-life care. Enough in terms of personal introduction here. Thank you for putting into your opening comments, too, what I'm going to really reflect on at length today. That part of the Newman mission statement about educating students to transform society. I've always been impressed by that particular line because I think it really gets to the heart of the matter as to what this institution should be all about, following closely in the footsteps of what Maria de Mattias was all about. It's a Catholic institution, closely following the teachings of Jesus. We are a people that must continue that particular work. Maria was not afraid to do it. Let us hope and pray that you and I are also not afraid and reluctant to do it. I'm also a member of the Precious Blood kind of family of communities. St. Gaspar was the founder for the group I belong to. And Maria was really highly impressed with his faithful ministry, continuing the mission of Jesus. So she decided also to continue that same kind of work. But I dare say that you and I should never, ever think that that call was only extended to a select handful, the call to continue the ministry, the work of Jesus. By our baptism, that same call is extended to every single one of us here. Going back to the mission statement about transforming, as you move that into transformation, you and I need to be honest with ourselves. That word gets very close to the word change, doesn't it? And when it gets right down to it, we all get set in our ways, and transformation can be a painful and difficult process. Mission statement again, empower graduates to transform society. It's not just those out there that need to be transformed. It's all of us here, inside ourselves, that need transformation. As Jeremiah said in that first reading today, we must do some rooting up and tearing down. Changing, rooting up and tearing down. Before we can do what? Before we can build and plant. The ministry of Jesus was very clearly about transformation. It was also very clearly about empowering people. And even on the part of Jesus, there had to be personal transformation. In his humanity, he was totally and completely like us. Not to acknowledge the humanity of Jesus is just as much heretical, if I can use that word, as denying the divinity of Jesus. So he began his ministry. What did Jesus do? He went on a lengthy retreat. Hebrew scripture says he was out in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. That's just the Hebrew way of saying he went on a long retreat. And he went on that long retreat for one simple reason, that he wanted to be sure he had a true and an honest ministry to God's people. And he went on that retreat to resist three basic human temptations. Temptation to wealth, the temptation to fame, glory, temptation to power. Paraphrasing a little bit those three temptations that are recounted for us in the scripture. In effect, Jesus says that's not what my ministry, my life is going to be about. And he's also very clearly telling all of his followers that's not what you and I ought to be about. As we look at these three basic human temptations, and put it into the context of what motivates us, what drives us, what's the payoff that has us do what we do. Sometimes very literally, it's wealth, it's a payoff, it's the bottom line. We think we go to college so we can get background and training so we can do what? Make lots of money, huh? And I'm not necessarily saying that having money, having resources, having wealth, that would be counter to the Hebrew concept. But how much is enough? is what it really comes down to. Is it the end and the goal in and of itself we strive for? We need to have a literal payoff. We go to work wherever it might be, to spirit, and even here, right? Because we got to keep roof overhead. We have to keep food on the table. So no, not in and of itself. But you still have to ask yourself, does that fulfill the inner longing of the human spirit? But going to the second one, the sense of fame and glory, I put another word in there, appreciation. So I'm going to do something for Emily because she's going to be very grateful, right, that I did that. You nod your head on that, please. You know, we all like appreciation and a thank you. But I can give you an example of my hospice work. Sometimes people are so depleted, so empty of that emotional energy, they don't have enough left to say thank you. Does that mean I'm not going to go out and help and support these people anymore? Once again, the thank you and appreciation is not out of place, but I don't think it's the strongest motivator. Where we indeed find the biggest payoff is when we feel we've made a difference. When we've helped people through some very difficult times, giving them support, and that brings in the word satisfaction, fulfillment. That's indeed what I think all of us have to look at. Let me back up a little bit and go to the literal payoff, whether or not that's enough in terms of the bottom line. Those who are youngsters here probably don't even know who Simon and Garfunkel are, do you? It was a group, powerful songs around in the 70s. And there's one song that sums up this question about wealth being the most important thing. The song Richard Cory, it's a haunting melody. They say that Richard Cory owns one half of this old town, then goes on with elliptical connections to spread his wealth around. But I work in his factory, and I curse the life I'm living, and I curse my poverty, and I wish that I could be Richard Cory with all his money. And then the singer in that song, so much to my surprise, I woke up and the Monday morning paper said, Richard Cory has put a bullet through his head. It's a powerful kind of message. Did that fulfill him? That's what I'm trying to illustrate in terms of where you and I need to be, in terms of what's very important and what drives us. The mission statement again of Newman directs us in a different way, doesn't it? Offers us a different challenge. It isn't just this transformation, finding the bottom line, the satisfaction that I want to address here to you who are still students. I think it also addresses itself to you who are faculty and staff here. I'm positive here, I know I was here for 13 years, that if you were in another setting, you could probably command a lot higher salary, a lot higher payoff literally, than what you get here. So I would hope that what motivates you as faculty and staff is that you also see that you're making a difference, and I'll touch on that a little later. And I hope you get a satisfaction from doing that. As again we heard in that reading from 1 Peter, I'm pretty positive that most of you here just don't work simply for silver and gold. That you're working for something that's much more important, something that will last forever, the legacy you leave and the students that you support in so many different ways, whether it's in the classroom or in another setting. And I can give personal testimony to you as faculty and staff about the difference you have made in the lives of people. I'm out there a lot of times in the medical community. I interact a lot with doctors and nurses. And I can tell you, just from an experience I had yesterday with a doctor, that you made a difference in those people's lives. I was asked this morning, you get this, I forget even what the rating is, you're supposed to rate doctors. And so I was asked to rate this particular doctor. I gave him the 5 stars. And I think it's because you as faculty and staff made a difference for him. And I could list all kind of other professions I encountered. Some lawyers even, we got one sitting right over here. JD, thank you again for what you do. Business leaders, teachers, the list could go on. Putting an end to all of this reflection, going back to where I started with the ministry of Jesus, that ministry was very clear. It was a ministry of bringing holiness, very close to the word wholeness. He was especially there for those who were broken, those who were on the fringes, the margins of society. His ministry was one of transformation. There's no question about that. Gospel of John today tells us that ministry came at a price for Jesus. He was a troublemaker in the eyes of the powers that be. Got hung on a cross for it. But the gospel reading today was also very clear. That sacrifice on the part of Jesus led to resurrection, to newness and fullness of life. We honor today Maria de Mattias, an individual who followed faithfully the call of Jesus to do the same. She was inspired by this example of Jesus, inspired by that which led to what we call precious blood spirituality. Not going to go into detail on that. That would be another whole homily. She devoted herself, especially as Jesus did, to those on the margins. What was her ministry primarily, Teresa, as you mentioned? To the young women of her time and place who simply were not given a place. Not given a place. She empowered them immensely. The ASCs have faithfully followed that same call for so many, many years, extended to countless students over the years, too many that I can recall. Can you and I also be faithful to the same call of Jesus to faithfully follow as did Maria? Transforming society is a key element of your mission statement. I mentioned earlier, I want to go to the degree of difference that I see hanging around the lampposts as I drive through the campus. A degree of difference. Can you, as you continue the mission here at Newman University, stand out in the culture as being different? That you espouse a different set of values, a set of values that will never disappear like silver and gold. Is Jerry here, Colleen? I don't see her around. But I think she came up with the degree of difference motto, didn't she? When I was still on the board, I proposed another motto. I said, we ought to have the motto, the jets fly higher. Jets fly higher. My final wish is, may Newman University always soar and fly high. Go Jets.